Well, good morning. I'm feeling a lot better than I decided to redo this whole video. Got a couple questions. I left a couple things out to show a little broader view. So at the end, I did record the Ellington Historical Society thing about the lake, and I did that, and hopefully they see it as me helping get the word out there instead of infringing on a copyright. But I had a few friends, they wanted to know exactly where I was speaking of. So we'll start with this map. This is a Google map looking down at like expanded view, and yeah, we'll take it from there. I'll try to keep it as simple as possible, which I'm not known to do. Okay, what I want to let you know is that, let's see, let's get do I want this color? Yeah, we want yellow. 140, it's down to Ellington, that way, okay? You can go to Tolland or Rockville, you can go to but this is where 140 meet. This is Route 30. It's called Stafford Road. Alright, Burbank Road is right here, and Ellington. When you get here, the firehouse is on the corner up here, and there's a gas station here. You go down this road, I swear the Busy Bee was right here, and you got cabin cottages right here that were right there. They tore some of them. If you keep going straight here, you're going to Sandy Beach. Talks about, my friend brought up. Alright, now Jimmy's is all the way over here in front of Sandy Beach. Alright, you got the Ellington Crystal Lake Elementary School there. Also a church or somewhere, and this used to be a market. This used to be, way back when, used to be video store. They've changed all of that. So there's a cemetery right here. There's a cemetery up here, and there's one up here, I believe, this way. So there's the cemeteries are right here, and then the newer cemetery is right here. Alright, so this is where we are. When they speak of the Crystal Lake Hotel, Hotel Street is right here. Crystal Lake Hotel used to be. This is where Raoul's used to be. Alright, they speak on that video, they speak of a mini golf course that was up in here, and you'll see, I'll show you where that was. This whole side of the lake back in the 60s and 70s developed as far as it was bustling. There was a lot of there was 3 dance halls, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And there was a lot of growth. People flocked here as a big. There was a lot of summer res, very few year-round. There was also a lot of summer cottages you could rent out. Like I said, the cottages, cabins, cottages, I think when she's talking about in the video, I think the ones without the power were the ones right here. And then all up in here, we had cabins with power. Okay. Like I said, some people were year-round, some people were not. And the Nipmuc tribe did settle on the side. It says it in the documentary, in the little video that I posted. So it was more towards the Stafford side. If you go up Route 30 all the way up to, that goes into Stafford. Okay, this is like the Stafford line. My cousin's on the Stafford line, so it's like right here is the Stafford line or something like that. I don't know exactly. But I can actually expand on this later on and say, okay, the Dimmicks used to live here. I mean, way back in the day in the first settlements, okay? But it was mainly this area right here that was settled. And there was a lot of tourism. A lot of people were coming in and out. We used to walk from here. We used to walk this, okay? We used to walk down here. I remember walking down here. This little store that was right here was a store. It wasn't an auto parts place or whatever it is now. We used to get candy cigarettes at and candy cigars. You know, the rock candy, all that. The guy there, he told me that I could be a hand model, which I don't think I could be because I got crooked pinkies at that point. So anyways, yeah. This area was bustling, and I wanted to show this because one of my girlfriends called me and it was asking me about it, and I'm like, no, we're not talking about where Jimmy's was, because Jimmy's is all the way over here. My concern area is right here. And if you see this whole area right here, look at back in the day, it wasn't as not littered as it was then. It is now. It was a lot of woods, okay, not just a little. Now, the reason for my videos is threefold. It's like I had a haunting up there that I wanted to prove, disprove, whatever, and understand. I found out there was a murder way back in like 1700s, 1600s on this street right here. There was a murder from the Nipmuc tribe. I don't know where that exactly happened, but it ended up hanging in Tolland somewhere, so, which you can go this way, I guess, for that. And, or this, I don't know where Tolland Street is, whatever. So anyways, I mean, there's a lot of, a few different things that I found out. Now, the area, like I said, I'm most concerned about is up here. This is in the foothills. This is Soapstone Mountain coming in here. Okay? This is all soapstone. So this would be considered the foothills of soapstone, and then you got your lake. Alright? So it basically went down. God bless you. My daughter's now got the whatever I had. And so right now what I want to do is click this off so that I can click this off and go into another map. Where's the other one? Here we go. This is the one where I zoomed in. See, this is the lake up here. Let me get my little doodad again. Okay, this is the lake. Okay. This is Route 30, which is Stafford Road. That goes all the way up to Stafford. The Nipmuc tribe was up here more. This is where Raoul's was. Okay. I had friends. The bus used to go down this West Shore Road. It was a neat little community. I mean, when we used to, I think this is one of the boat docks or something. This is where a beach was, somewhere around here, where we used to be able to swim by ourselves in the beach. We used to go up here too for beach swimming, but that was scarier to me because my brother had convinced me there were sharks in the water. Okay, now map. It's not the original map because the original map I had just basically honed in on La Rosa and the missing girls. Now the missing girls, I'm doing something else with, so I don't want to really do too much on this map with them, other than to say that I think if they are up here, they're not going to find them because it's humid in the summertime. In the wintertime, it's cold. If it was just cold all the time, then maybe bones would be found. But since they're talking wells and water and microorganisms and humidity, and that was back in the 70s that happened, I don't think even the bones would be there. I think the bones would have biodegraded too. And that's just a theory. But I did my little thing in the beginning, and my cousin said, you left out the little shack. I did. I didn't remember it. But there was a one-room shack. I always thought it was an outhouse, but I'm not sure. I've been trying to get a hold of my brother to find out what he knew about that. And, you know, I went and messaged my other cousin to find out if she ever went in there. But my other cousin, it was a creepy little shack, and it was located right around here. And what I remember that shack was there was a big boulder rock next to it, or up in the woods, maybe. I remember the boulder rock in the shack. I thought it might have been an outhouse. I'm not sure. So, the thing I find funny when I'm talking about this is you got us in the late 70s and early 80s. You got us kids running around all these places. Like when I say we're up in these woods, this is owned by Yadzaniak. You got us running around. This is right here is owned by the town of Ellington. And God knows who owned this stuff, because these guys weren't here. Okay, we're all running around in these people's properties. Okay, like it's okay, like it's normal. All right, and going into, you know, blighted buildings, and, you know, catching frogs in somebody's well. You know, I mean, we always thought it was okay to do. All right, we weren't doing it to be malicious and to be hoodlums. We were just doing it because we're outside playing. Back in the 70s and 80s, that's what you did. You didn't stay in. The adults kicked you out, and you went and played. And this is how we played. So, there were such things as going too far into the woods to get in trouble. We had garter snakes and garter snake dens. We also had timber rattlers. I remember up here, my bedroom was right here, so I could hear everything in these woods. I would go to sleep with my window cracked open, and I would listen to the cicadas and the grasshoppers and all that. But also, there was, I never knew what that was. That was the rattlesnakes. That was timber rattlers. So yeah, there were dangers like that. I remember being down here. We had, our mailboxes were right here. And there's a little, you know, that stream. This stream I played in most. Okay. That's where I wasn't afraid to go. And, I remember having my bike and walking, and all of a sudden being chased by a snake. And I ran all the way up to my house. So yeah, there's little stories like that we could tell. But I have a lot of negative memories, put it that way, and I'm not going to share them all. I don't have a lot of good memories. Now, we're talking 1974 that I got there. And I left in, 1987, Grandma sold the house. And I came to this little red cabin in 1988 for like a few months. And then I was gone. When I left, these two houses were still there, and they were still blighted. Alright. I guess the Andrews house is family owned, and the guy who owns it now, who owned it when my cousin was there, he fixed it up and renovated it. This house got torn down. But these two houses were blighted. They were built in 1940, before Grandma came up here. And right across the street there was, I guess, that one room shack was right here with the boulder. And this house wasn't here. This house wasn't here, but there was a little red shack here, red cabin here, and that was owned by the Farrs, and they were like only seasonal. They only came up here during the summertime. My aunt and uncle lived here in the 80s, in the late 70s, early 80s. Well, this is family property, put it that way, don't go there. But yeah, before them, a guy named Yedzeniak owned it. Alright, now he lived here. This was built in 1956. This was built in, actually, way before a lot of these places were here. This one looks like it was the first one in 1930 built. It was here in 1930, which is neat. But there was a machine shop right here. Not this, but right there. And the story goes, the man who rented from Yedzeniak burnt this down because he was tired of people that worked there going in to go to the bathroom, into the cabin. And the other thing was the firing of guns. And like my cousin said, those are just rumors. So anything I have outside of with the articles that I find is hearsay, because the reason why it's hearsay and not a fact is because stories get embellished as you go along. Stories change. It's handed down from mouth. So, not knowing the story, Yedzeniak had a wife that died in 1974, I believe. Now, his wife died of cancer. She had a long battle with cancer, so she was sick for a while. I have pictures of Grandma and the kids while they were building this house. And one point, you can see the red cabin, and I know it's the red cabin because I know what the look of the red cabin is. So it was looking here, and Kyle's house wasn't built in 1954. So I think the house we're seeing behind it is this house that was built in 1947. And I remember 1948, 1940. These, I think one of these you can see in the picture. Butsy's houses remained unchanged, but this house was in the picture of one of the other pictures. And it was built in 1950, the same year that Grandma built her house. Muttown and Monoak's house was built in 1950, so it's the same exact year. Pettit, this house was rebuilt. There was a little house right here that looked like one of those, it looked like to me, the length of what I remember it, of a motorhome, but it wasn't a motorhome, it was a house. Alright, Uncle Andy owned it first. Uncle Andy is on Grandpa's side, that's Grandpa. I do have a clipping of him with the land changing. So I know who he got this from. But I don't know who. The Lamottes own this. The Lamottes own this. The Lamottes own this. The Lamottes owned this. I don't know how they got the land. Okay, I'm still looking for land changing. Alright. My great-grandfather was a barber. That street that he worked in the barber shop for years in Rockville is no longer there. I think it's called Market Street. He worked as a barber. So, but back in those days, there was Walnut Street was our driveway, basically. That went around to Pine Street. And then there was another street that went around Oaks property, and that was Spruce Street. Those are no longer there. Oak Street went from here all the way down. That is no longer there. This Maple Street is no longer there. Okay? So, you know, you got even streets that are different than back in the day. This house wasn't here. This wasn't here. The La Rosa house that burned down when Nestor lived there in the 80s, you know, late 70s, early 80s, I believe. But that house was, I remember now, was more in the back of Butsy and Uncle Freddie. So it was more back here. And that's the house in question as far as missing girls and stuff goes. This house was built in 1954. This one was 1960. Alright, my aunt was supposed to get this house. My other aunt was supposed to get this house and property to build on. They never got it because Grandpa decided he wanted to build on it and sell them. This property, one of my aunts wanted to buy, but she couldn't, and she was upset. So, that was that. One of my aunts dated Bobby La Rosa, said he was a very nice guy, never made any moves on her or anything. And she'd swear up and down that he is not guilty of hurting anyone. Now, on the other hand, getting to there, the woman, the matriarch of the family was not a very nice person. Okay? And if these boys wanted to be mama's boys, they would help their mother do anything. And even hide things. So, when I read on a forum, on a public forum, that the woman must have been really scared in that family, it wasn't just the woman, it was the men were scared of the woman too. Okay, so the other thing that really bothers me is if you don't know the way this area was comprised and the dynamics behind it, you really have no say in saying where were the parents, because everybody watched everybody at this lake. Okay, Grandma and Grandpa had 7 children. This house had a bunch of children. This house had a bunch of children. Always had a bunch of children down here. Bunch of children here. It's just, there's a lot of kids, and we all played up in these woods. I don't know Kyle Shaney. He's probably a good person. Alright, he lived there after my Uncle Rainey did. I don't know if there was somebody between Uncle Rainey and Kyle, because I can place Uncle Rainey here around 1955, 56, and then he goes into East Hartford, I believe. So, and that's per documentation that I do have, that I will show you. That Uncle Rainey was right here. And so, family. Let's talk about Irby and Medora. Uncle Irby, get this right, married into the family. Aunt Medora was a Lamont. He was said to have molested a few people. And like I said, that is hearsay, because that's handed down and we don't know. Never charged. I don't think he was ever charged. I haven't looked for him in the papers, put it that way. Now, Uncle Rainey, on the other hand, is in the newspapers and was arrested and was jailed for underage alcohol drinking and molestation, morals charges, and assault. So, yes, he has a record of pedophilia. Yes, my aunt used to call him gay. He was gay, but he was also a pedophile. Uncle Andy, I don't know too much about. I know the Wendells, Mr. and Mrs. Wendells were older back then, I guess. And if I'm wrong, Mrs. Wendell would tell me that Edgar lived with his mom, never married, took care of his mom all his life. There's actually a newspaper clipping that I thought was neat. Shows how much he cared about his mother. You know, of course, he saved his mother out of a fire, is what he did. And to me, that is like heartwarming because he loved his mommy that much. But the Wendells have an impeccable relationship, reputation. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Wendells. Not that there's anything a lot wrong here. I don't know Andrews. I don't know Mitchell. DeRozier was okay. She was actually in that fire. There was a fire way back when in Hartford, I believe it was Circus, and she was burnt most of her body. I don't know who lived there. Don't know them. I've heard these names. That's why they're there. Okay. Don't know them. I know this whole place was littered, and before I even realized that it even said it on the video that I'm going to share with you, as far as Arlington history, in the 70s, in the early 70s, I believe, the Crystal Lake Fire Department took much of these cabins and cottages and used them as training ground. And so they burnt them down and controlled fires so that they could train their people. So there was a lot of cabins up here. Now, this house burned down. I'm not sure when, because my cousin, who was a 60s child, she grew up in the 60s basically, the oldest one, remembers playing with the children in that house. There was a makeshift road that led down, yes, to the La Rosa house. It was about around here. It's not like I'm getting it spot on, but you could see the tracks of the tires, and then there was grass in the middle. It was not a regular road. The story that the family member of La Rosa got, that the guys used to go down here to escape the cops. This was a foundation from a burned down house. And what they got was, if anything, would be down the well, because there was a fort, quote unquote, rape fort. But they searched the well right here. Well, right around here. Okay? The Ellington police did in 2016, I believe it was. Don't quote me on the year, but it's around that time. And that's like right next to where my house is. Now, I guess the fort was supposedly over here and stuff. But they said that they would jump off here. Okay, now I don't see them going all the way from here to here. First of all, next to a road. Second of all, and it's dark enough up there. It's dark enough that if you're out there midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, doing your crap, you could do it. But I guess there's a certain way you have to open these wells up. Could they do it? Not without flashlights, probably. And the reason why I debunked that as this person right here, you have to know the area and the people. She was best friends with my grandmother since 1950. Mr. Cowell was he used to draw the Springfield Indian logo. I used to sit there and watch him do it while he was drafting on his drafting board. That's where he would draw it. It was kind of cool to watch. Butsy was up in everybody's business. As a matter of fact, a lot of people deemed her mean. And she was in everybody's business. I don't care what time of day it was. If there was something going on around here, she knew about it. They also had a dog that was chained here. Not here, not here, but right here, like feet from where they would have done the well. So they would have had to known the dog. They would have had to know when she was gone. There's just too many variables with opportunity with that well. There was also a little hand-drawn map that put, okay, they used to get frogs here, and then the fort was up here, and okay, there's a ledge that I used to sit on and write poetry right here. The stream used to come down under it. We used to catch frogs here. And then the pollywogs and the tadpoles were in this well. Okay? This well was a house well. And it was huge. I didn't realize how big it was. But it also had a basin off the end, like a pool. I thought it was deeper than it was. I thought it was like 6 feet deep, that little basin. It was a rectangle. But no, it's never been that deep. It's been 2-3 feet deep. But the Wendells were nice enough last weekend to open it up for me. And yes, you can fit like 6-7 people down there. If you want to hide from the cops. But it has to be totally dry, you know? It's disgusting if you're in there. Somebody's drinking water. But I was blessed to be able to look in it, and it was all dry. There was no water in it. And when I looked down in there, there was like one of those 5-gallon paint buckets. You know, those 5-gallon buckets. One of those. Probably somebody trying to get their water and drop the bucket. There was also a little round. It looked like to me a little round tire from a plastic toy, kid's toy. And that looked like it could have been, because there was rust on that roof of that. It could have been even dropped through that. Because it was way inside on the corner. Twigs. There wasn't much in it. And the bottom was lined with black mold. So, you know, it's like, it's damp down there. It's moldy. There's a lot of microorganisms down there. I don't think we would have seen anything. I was thinking, oh, maybe skulls and stuff, because you see skulls and stuff, but I'm not a forensic expert. And then reading about it, it does say in moist heat climates that the bones do degrade quickly. Just like if you take a body, and that's why they freeze bodies, so that they don't decay as fast. Okay, so I mean, it's these climate up here is extremes. It's like in the winter it gets really cold and snowy. In the summer it gets hot. You know, hot and sweaty. So I use polywogs interchangeably with frog eggs and tadpoles, just to let you know. Forgot about that word. Now, up here, like, you go up a hill and around a corner. Can't really see around the corner. There's an entranceway to where there's a circular area that was cleared out a little bit. Not a perfect circle. But there was a fire pit. And when I was around 8 or 9, which would have put me in the late 70s, there were, in that fire pit, pictures, Polaroid pictures of half-naked girls that were half burnt. That freaked me out to where I never wanted to go up there again in that area. When you're 8 or 9 and you see something like that, you get freaked out and you never go there again. You don't run the pictures to grandma and say, oh, let's call the cops. Fast forward to year 2000, when I found out about them searching for the missing girls here and knowing what I found here, I did talk to the person that was in charge and I told him about it. I said, but like him and I both agreed. I mean, there would be no pictures left from 70s. They'd be all gone. So no proof. That's hearsay from me. The cops don't know, because there's no proof. So knowing that there's a little party spot up here with half-naked pictures of girls, pictures of half-naked girls in a fire pit that was burned out, and knowing that there's a well here where we catch pollywogs and stuff, when they said that they catch the frogs here and the rape fort was here, I'm thinking rape fort, pollywogs. So I'm like, okay, I was wondering what was around in here, because again, close to the road. However, I didn't know this person growing up, so I don't know if they would be watching every hour of the night. So this was a possibility. But Mr. and Mrs. Wendell and their friend told me that there was another well up here. But that, and it was kind of like this one, but that one was collapsed. And that one was collapsed because there was a guy that came up and had access to the well and was doing something to it to save his water for his property. If he had come across anything, they said, he's the type of person who wouldn't have thought about it. If he come across clothes or nothing, he wouldn't have thought about it. It would be like the 8 or 9, 10-year-old me up here. Okay, it's there. Only I got freaked out because of the nature of what it was and how old I was. But this guy would have just thrown everything aside, said, oh well. So we'll never know, basically, what they found here, or if there was anything there. Again, given the nature of the condition of this well was probably same conditions. So no, there's no bodies. There's not going to be bones, which is really sad. I was hoping not to find anything, because you don't want to find anything, but I was hoping to like help someone get a little bit of closure where there is none. Why am I like this? What? Nothing, honey. I'm still doing my video. Oh, by the way, LiDAR on this area was professionally used. At this point, it's, you know, it's very expensive for the police to bring in LiDAR. And it's on a hunch. It's not on anything that's concrete evidence. So the Wendells pulled strings, and they did get the LiDAR up there. And it was either from UConn or Yale, and UConn does do LiDAR. Because I explained to Mrs. Wendell, I'm like, I went on and I looked at the LiDAR images, and I said, I didn't know what the heck I was looking at anyway, you know? But that's how I know where the LiDAR is done. So, yeah, LiDAR was there. The cadaver dogs did pick up here, too. Based on the dream that my friend told me about, her dream was, okay, she saw a flower pot and she looked up here and she saw this. Now, that was not there in the 70s. I'm telling you, that wasn't there until the 90s. So, there's no way she could have saw that. But if you look at this house from here, kind of in the same direction, it looks like this house from this side. Now, so I think she was actually seeing this house in her dream. I'm not going to discount what she's saying. I have a picture of a little girl in my curtains that are right here. Okay? I do believe if anything happened up here, those girls were crying out to me. You know, giving me the dreams and stuff. My cousins had dreams. I guess it's, from what my cousin said, she's going to have to clarify. I have 2 cousins that had dreams about this little cabin. And then the dream, I guess, it was filled with blood. It's creepy. Because I'm not the only one that had bad dreams or bad experiences as far as hauntings at this lake. But right now what we're doing is we're saying that's what they were. And we're not gonna bring them home. So that's where I'm there. The dog, the cadaver dog did hit in this area too. So, I mean, it's done. It's as far as you can go without jackhammering underneath this foundation. And they said that they checked under that foundation and there was nothing. My God, you know, that's a haven for, honestly, it's so full now of, it's like filled out, you know, time went by. It's a haven for garter snakes. Okay, garter snakes live in dens, and they can live by the thousands and hundreds in dens. So, anyways, that's where we are with that. Now, where does that leave me right now? Just saying, this whole area back in the 70s and 60s and 50s was a bustling with a lot of people. There was a lot of cabins around here. A lot of people rented them out. A lot of kids running around. Yes, you had a pedophile right there. Okay, my mom and dad, my dad tried to kill my mom in front of me. If he came home without my mother and we never knew what happened to her, it would eat me alive to this day. That's one of the reasons why I felt so bad, because it was so close to home. But at this lake, you know, people judge other people so harshly, it's unbelievable. Now, you gotta understand, even Bobby LaRosa's Susan, she was a drug addict. And people didn't like the way she treated her kids, and she was young. So she never had the chance to get clean. But not because she doesn't deserve to die because she was a drug addict, okay? Let's put it that way. Wipe that off the board, I'm not saying that. Susan did not deserve to die. She deserved to live. She deserved a chance to clean up her act and be a good mom. She never got that chance. But to sit there and definitively blame her husband, even though a lot of it points to him, I say that in the United States, you are innocent until proven by a court of law to be guilty. LaRosa had mommy issues. What if he was just cleaning up after the ladies in his life? My friend did say that Susan's... the whole thing with Susan LaRosa seemed like a cat fight. But then again, you have another little one that was saying something differently, which is not my thing to put out there. So it could have meant that there was a cat fight in the men cleaned up after the woman again. You never know what the truth is. And my other message is like I said, I'm not proud of my family being this way. Grandpa was an alcoholic. He was not very nice to his own children. Put it that way right now. Like I said, Mononc is accused of molestation. Uncle Rainey went to jail for it. I'm not proud of it, but I'm going to tell everybody, just because these people were that way, that's not who I am. That's not what I do. But it's also, you can't judge things. These are real people living real lives here. Now, I will say, I told you I would say something about the old golf course. It's right here. And the reason why I know it's right here and it's up on the hill is because we used to play in these woods and on the remnants of this old golf course. It was kind of cool. Now, I've never heard anything about that golf course until it was mentioned in the Ellington video. So I was kind of excited to hear about that. Okay, so on to the next. I think I'm done with what I wanted to discuss here because I think this is all neat to know. I mean, there was no houses up here, so all of this was woods. All of this was woods. All of this was woods. It was really neat. It was a neat experience to grow up there, and I consider myself blessed because I was sheltered. Now, I used to, just to let you know, when I was a kid, one of my earliest memories was right here is where our front yard was. I used to stand here, and right down here, Kyle Shane had parties all the time in the late 70s. Or somebody was having a party all the time. I remember those parties. I remember hearing the revs of the engines and the men laughing and stuff, and it went right back into the house. But I was little hearing that. My other cousin remembers that too. So, all right, that's that. All right. I'm hoping I did this right. Here we go. I'm going to talk about how Uncle Andy owned Pine Street. Now, Uncle Andy acquired the land according to this article 5/29/1968 from the Harper Current. He got land and buildings of Donald Chase and Irene Hulk located on Pine Street, Ellington, to Mr. and Mrs. Andrew Hickey of Burnside Avenue, East Hartford. Okay, so we know that Donald Chase and Irene Hulk owned that property where Uncle Andy lived and Pettit owned after Uncle Andy. Aunt Claire had wanted to buy this house before Pettit did. So this is just the article explaining that. On to the next article. I got where Uncle Rainey's history. This is the articles with the scout troop at Crystal Lake. This is all 1955. So he is up at the lake. He's got morals charge. He's got actual assault charge. He's arrested. He's tried. He pleads guilty. And if you, I can read the last one. I can't really read these. First arrest, okay, was Rainey Lamothe of Crystal Lake. Okay, they put him in Crystal Lake. All right, Rainey A. Lamothe, indecent assault. Okay, so there's those, and then the next image is 4 persons sent to jail as court term opens, and Rainey Lamothe is one of them. He's sent to jail for 1 year in jail, in Tolland jail, after which he will be on probation for 2 years after. This article was in, the house was built in 1954 that I was talking about, where afterwards I know that Kyle Shane lived. Like I said, I don't know Kyle Shane from Adam, so he's probably a nice guy. But Uncle Rennie used to live there in 1954, which is really, really weird, because I remember him living there and I wasn't even born. So I don't understand. You know, I was an egg. Articles and obituaries after this incident place him in Hartford, not Crystal Lake. And he's in Hartford, in East Hartford. So he's not back there in the 60s and 70s when the girls went missing. Alright, just to clarify that. Image 3, this is the same image I have from image 1. I didn't realize I duplicated it. Alright, in 1950 my grandmother built the house at the lake. This is the house that I grew up in. Was being built. This you can tell, because it's the exact same as it is today. This is the Cowles house. This is where the dog used to run, and the well that was searched is right down in here. So this is Pine Street, and then this is, oh, I forgot what street that was already. I got a bad short-term memory. But these are my aunts and uncles. That are building the house up on Pine Street. I think this is a beautiful image. Now you get the next image, which is Grandma with the wheelbarrow, and what she's doing is building the house. And I know this is the cabin at the lake. This is DeRoche's cabin. And back here is, see, right in between here is where the Kyle Shane's house is. There's no house there. That's all the cabin. But back here is that house that I was showing you on the map, and the other 2 houses I was showing you on the map that had been built there way before these houses got built. So this is Grandma again. She is doing her job as building the house. It's image 6. Now, Grandma and Grandpa, when they were building the house, were living out of a tent while building the houses. And this is a picture of Grandma with my aunts and uncles with the tent. Now, the next one is an article that I came across the other day that I've never seen. And it kind of broke my heart, because Grandpa was trying to do the right thing. This was from 10/9/1950. So it was basically, they're building the house, they're living in a tent, and it's too cold up there for the kids to really be in. So at the last ditch effort, he actually went to the police station to look for shelter. He basically did the right thing. He got shelter for the kids, but not for themselves. So the kids were placed in a, cousin said orphanage, but I think they were placed in different foster homes. Remember, they kind of begrudged them for doing that, but actually, you know, Grandpa, who was a drunk, basically, he was trying to do the right thing by them. Now, image 8, this is the way the house looked in the late 80s, early 80s. This is 80s, because that's my car. That's Grandma's car. There was a shed back here. This was a I forgot what they porch, closed-in porch. This was into the living room, into the kitchen. Now, as you can see, the modern day house that was built after 1988, 87, they added this. They added the roof. They put it as a peak roof. They actually built underneath the foundation too. They built a, I think it was a cellar there. There was no cellar. And then they put on this roof, and then they turned around and added the addition of the garage there. Now this is what my friend says she sees in her dream, but I believe the case is a little bit different. I believe what she saw in her dream was this, something to do with that type of the house, because if you're coming out from the woods here, it kind of looks the same. So I just added this just to show how it would kind of look like the same thing. This house was a house that Grandpa built in 1960. 1960, and yeah, this is the road you would go up and around that corner, because you can tell it's a hill up and around the corner. That's where the entranceway to where the fire pit was. So, and right down a little bit back would be coming towards us, looking at the picture, would be more of the where the well is that I got to look in. So yeah, and this is the end of our driveway. So this is just stuff I wanted to show you in this, and it has gotten to be a long video, so I'm just gonna actually dive into the next video that I wanted to show and share, and it is another 45 minutes. So just sit back, relax. This next video was done much better than mine. The lady's professional at it, and I thought it was just neat to learn the history of the lake. Thank you, and have a nice day.
So I am Diane True. I am the Vice President of the Ellington Historical Society. The Ellington Historical Society is a nonprofit 501c3. We're funded by membership dues, grants, and donations, basically. And we collect, preserve, and share the history of our rural community through collections, exhibitions, and events. You have probably noticed, living in Ellington the last couple of years, there's been quite a lot of changes at the Historical Society, starting in about 2020. But in 2023, you notice we were able to put up a pavilion. We have one of the rooms, the dining room, due to the contributions from our annual appeal. We were able to repair all the plaster walls in that room. It's done, it's painted, it looks beautiful. It's going to be our exhibit room. We go into the schools. We have a couple volunteers that, especially third grade, it's mandated in the state of Connecticut for third graders to study their town history. One of our members put together a beautiful packet for third grade. It has been old, it was 30 years old, and now it's modern, and the teachers are loving it. They also go into some of the lower classrooms with hands-on exhibits. And we have started providing talks. It's 3 so far. And we keep repeating them because people are asking. So this one is the history of Crystal Lake. We have the history of the immigration of the Russian Jews into Ellington, and the history of the immigration of the Swiss German into Ellington are our other talks. And we probably will repeat them because every time we have them, it's sold out. So we'll just keep going. So the next thing up, my little thing. We're having an antique village, vintage and antique market, May 4th. So if you know anybody looking for dealers, it's basically you rent a space. It's going to be May 4th. There's some flyers up here. If you know anybody that sells vintage or antique stuff, or if you want to get together and clean out your attics, please take a flyer for that. So the history of Crystal Lake. Wawaquasit. It basically means where the cattails glow, or where the flags grow. I'm going too fast in my thing. So, you go back to Ellington. I want you to remember this statement, because it comes into play towards the end. Town of Ellington is incorporated and gained all legal rights to all bodies of water and the land beneath the lakes, including Square Pond. Crystal Lake was first called Square Pond. Square Pond is located in the northeastern tip of Ellington and flows into Stafford. It's fed by 4 streams. It was a peaceful forested area with crystal clear blue water. So, starting in the 1800s, there was a Native American settlement on the end near Stafford. They were there till the 1800s, and that's who named it Wawaquasit, which means flaggy pond, or places where the flags grow, referring to the cattails that grew around it. It was beautiful, abundant fishing and beautiful shore, and that's a picture of what a typical Nipmuc home looked like. So the first thing that happens is in the 1700s, there's a Methodist movement, especially in New England. And 1792, the first meeting house of Crystal Lake Community Methodist Church was built. So we still have that church. So that was built, and then they built a second meeting house. It was built in 1834 on Sandy Beach Road, but then they moved it. They used to move buildings back then. They moved it to its location where it is now. During that time, there was a split in the church, and it split, and then another church formed, and it was the Advent Church. It didn't succeed because there weren't enough people, so they split into 2 churches. They didn't have enough people at either church, and so the Advent Church was closed, and then they moved that church across the street and hooked it on to the Methodist Church. But the very significant thing is the parsonage, they also moved, is the oldest parsonage in New England. It was built in 1795, and it's across the street from the Methodist Church, right in front of Center School. So it's a very historic building.
Crystal Lake School.
It still exists, it's still there.
Crystal Lake School.
Yeah.
Crystal Lake School.
Yeah.
Did I say center?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I went there. So what happens in 1815, 4 families move into the area. Richardson, Dimmick, Aborn, Newell. A small community is born. And they mostly settled on the Stafford end of it. That end of the lake is where these farms were. This thing's not turning. Oh. I have to do it with my finger, I guess.
You got it.
Oh, got it, okay. So, this is very interesting. So in 1824, the last of the Nipmuc Native Americans leave. Why did they leave? There was a man who murdered his wife, George Henry Washington. He was a member of that Nipmuc community. Murders his wife, he gets arrested, and he's going to be hanged. And they basically, this is a newspaper clipping, they hang him on the Tolland Green. And according to this newspaper article, 10,000 people came to watch him be hung. I have a problem with that. Where are they coming up with 10,000 people? We are talking 1824. I mean, where did they come from? I don't know. But that's what the newspaper said. I'm just...
There was no television.
It's incredible, like some of the things, the day of the execution was pleasant and a vast concourse of people assembled, probably not less than 10,000. Perfect regularity was, however, preserved and no unfortunate accident occurred. So apparently he basically said, I did it, I'm guilty, I'll take my punishment. 10,000, I don't know. So, one of the first families did it. So their land is by the dam, which is the Stafford end of the lake.
Wow.
So he owns the land around it, and he owns the flowage rights of water over that dam. So a natural stone dam is built on that north end of the lake. So he sells those flow rights to Stafford Mineral Springs, which is in Stafford. Okay, so he leases the land, and the mill grows, and the dam is improved. And when they improve that dam, Crystal Lake increases by almost 40%. And Crystal Lake is the size of what it is today from increasing that dam. It's 50 feet deep, it covers 172 acres, and is crystal clear. So before that, it was much smaller. Next thing that happens is find the families in the area say we need a school, and they build the first one-room schoolhouse in 1861. It became a two-room schoolhouse in 1929, but they didn't get a bathroom until 1949. This is an actual picture of a classroom from Crystal Lake School in 1896. What's interesting, it must be winter or fall because they all have shoes on. Because in our archives, we have pictures of old classrooms most of the time the kids don't have shoes on. So either they wore their shoes for the picture or it was colder weather. So at first, Crystal Lake was called Square Pond. It was also referred to as Ruby Pond because there were garnets, and there still are, around the lake. So this man grew up in Crystal Lake, a native of Crystal Lake, and he became a lawyer, and he moved to Chicago. And he was responsible for getting the name changed to Crystal Lake. I've heard, I can't document that it was named that because of the crystal clear water and the crystal clear ice that was harvested from the lake. No proof. So now Crystal Lake starts becoming a tourist attraction. So the first building that goes up is Crystal Lake Hotel. Built in 1894, that is a picture of it. And it is a destination spot for people far and wide. It's located just south of where the boat launch is. There's a road there, Hotel Road. That's where the hotel was. And there might be like some little artifact of something, but not much that you can tell that it's there on the space. But it was a big deal. It had 23 guest rooms, bowling alley, dining room, tavern, pool, billiard tables. But it burnt to the ground in 1935. A story that I did hear, which I hope to believe, these things are hard to document, is during Prohibition, they would be notified they were going to be raided, and they would take the barrels of liquor and throw them in the lake. And then when they left, they'd just go get it back. Is it true? Nobody really wanted Prohibition. I mean, nobody. Except the ladies who pushed for it. What helped Crystal Lake really be booming is trolleys. So trolleys come. It made a big difference in getting people to Crystal Lake. What's interesting about the trolleys is they just didn't last that long. They only lasted 15 to 20 years. Now here's a map of the trolleys. So you can see you could come from Enfield, you can go to Crystal Lake. Well, yeah, you can go to Crystal Lake. It connected with Snipsic Lake. There was also recreation on Snipsic Lake. There was a ferry across Crystal Lake from the Ellington side to the Rockville side. There was, you could take a train into Rockville and then get on the trolley and go to the lakes. So it was a big deal to have these trolleys, to give people access to the lakes. But they just didn't last very long, and I don't know the reason for that. So the next big thing that happens, 1915, Rouse is built. And that's also on the end, the Stafford end of the lake, towards the dam. And today, it's actually the last building on West Shore Road. The building is still there. It was built in 1915. It was a dance hall, and it's big time now because it's 1915 and people have cars, but they also can go by trolley. And in the 1930s, 1,000 people went to Rouse. And that's a lot of people. Basically, Stafford was a mill town, Rockville was a mill town, everybody worked 6 days a week. Saturdays might be half day, and they all took off to the dance halls on Saturday night in mass. The building burned to the ground in 1940, and they rebuilt it. So it then it was Rouse. It also had a beach there, and it was probably one of the deeper beaches. There were 3 eventually places, but in one of the deeper waters off of this one. So it was Jack's Pavilion for a while, then it became Clearwater Beach Club, and the last thing it was Crystal Lake Beach and Boat Club, and that was owned by Gene Kidney. He bought it because he had such fond memories of hanging out there as a kid. It's still there, it's a private residence. Here are some ads, just to give you an idea of how popular this place was. Busy season at Crystal Lake, 1915, 1916. I want to know if anybody knows what the word disport means. I had to look it up. Disport at Crystal Lake, dance and romp and swim. Anybody know what it means? These words that were so used and we lost them. It basically means recreation, have fun. Like, what is that? I thought it was something bad, disport. It sounds like a negative, but 1917, Crystal Lake property soars, cottage owners get city prices for rents, and then a big carnival for Crystal Lake, more than 150 canoes. So it was big time. And we're only at 1921. So then, starting in 1917, there was a yacht club, very active through the 70s. There was a specific kind of boat that was very popular that they raced. I wish I could remember the name of it, but a very...
I think they were called comets.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, comets. It was a specific type of sailboat. Thank you. Yeah, feel free to chirp in if you know something or if you have a question. So canoe carnivals, they had them starting in 1919, the first event attracted 3,000 spectators. So just think of that today. Think of, 3,000 people is a lot of people. A lot of people. So 1925, the Sandy Beach Recreation Area is now built by a couple, and that has a pine grove, a pavilion, it has a dance hall, roller skating rink, refreshments, boat houses, canoe lockers, and an open-air boxing arena. So during the day, the roller skating rink was a roller skating rink, and they actually had a man playing the organ live for the roller skaters, and at night it was a dance hall. The picture's not very good, but there was a big water wheel, a big slide. It was big time. Big slide. They probably wouldn't let you do that today. That slide like that. One of the ad for the boxing, and then the roller skating rink. All gone. Cost $1 for ringside, but you could get in for 75 cents in the bleachers.
Did it burn? The roller skating rink, did it burn?
No, it got taken down. It did not burn. So some more ads. Now we're at 1925. Large crowds see well-contested events held at Crystal Lake. State Road proves boon to Ottawas. They have lots of outings there. 650 children at a picnic. That's a lot of picnic. And Crystal Lake to welcome orchestras. So West Shore Road was the main road. East Shore Road, there was nothing on that side of the lake at this time. So now come the cottages. What I find very interesting, it attracted people from Long Island, and I can only think that it had to be the Long Island next to New York City, because if you've ever been to the Long Island out there, it's gorgeous. I'm not sure why I'd come to Crystal Lake, but it was really attractive to people from Long Island. And during the Depression, there were still cars, so it was an inexpensive place to rent a cottage. There were two main cottages. The Wendell's cottages were off the lake. Wendell Road, so West Shore Road goes, and then Wendell's like this, so it's up on a hill looking at the lake. They had electricity and running water. Lake view. So these are some of there was a little pamphlet that the Wendells gave us, and it's showing some of the cottages, the bungalows that were available. The Love Nest at the bottom, I'm not sure you can see it, but a 2-bedroom was $20 a week. A 4-bedroom was $32 a week, and the smaller ones were like $15 a week. You could go and stay at the Wendells. So the Wendells still own that property. There are none of the cottages left, but Wendells still live on the property. It's a couple of the examples of the cottages. Lovely Lucerne, the Love Nest, you can see they're all different sizes. They were from like 1 bedroom, I think one of them had 5 bedrooms. The other cottages were Lasky's cabins, and those were right on West Shore Road. No electricity, no plumbing. Community outhouse. But Lasky's promise, never a dull moment at the Lakeside Tourist Cabins. So you have to decide, lakefront, electricity, and water. And then, it's hard to sing, it's really sensitive. And then we have Jimmy's. Jimmy's is still there, the building. So it's a Crystal Lake landmark. It opens, it was owned by James and Selma Cross, and then their daughter Shirley, from 1929 to 2004. So the Crosses owned a grocery store in Hartford, so they had the means for the products, and did they come and live? Did they live? In the summer, they must have lived right there, right on that across the street. They lived right there, right?
41, 241 Sandy Beach Road.
They lived there, in the summer they lived there. Here's some other pictures of Jimmy's. This is them. So there's some cool stuff. Lori Spielman claims it's the best French fries she ever had. So, Crystal Lake. So we go back to the original hotel. And the red building up there was the ice house for the hotel that burned down. They took it and moved it, once again, moving buildings, and it became the Crystal Lake Volunteer Fire Department house, and it is still there today. They moved it. Improved since then, but that part of the building is still there. So now our third, so before now we got 2 dance halls happening. Now we get a third. 1946, Surdell's opens. It's Crystal Lake Ballroom, and so anybody that remembers going to Crystal Lake, that's the one you're going to remember because it's the newest. Anybody here meet their spouse at the Crystal Lake Ballroom? I wanted to do something. Oh, I have to take a picture. So the Crystal Lake Ballroom opens, but it was also a beach, right? So it's a beach, a hot dog stand, slides, changing rooms, outhouses, and they had music. And usually Friday nights was a polka band.
No, yeah.
So Friday nights polka bands and then more rock and roll type bands on Saturday night. And they had music there to the mid-70s. I think one of the last bands was Muddy Waters. Or something. So they had built, at first their concession stand was on a house or part of the house. They had a fire there, so they built a concession stand. I love this picture, dancing on the beach. They had a day camp there for kids, and it was a very crowded place on the weekends. So weekends were big time. So in 1946 now we have 3 dance halls, a roller skating rink, a boxing rink, and lots of fun on Crystal Lake. So these are some of the ads from some of the places in Rouse. Some of the people, they had some pretty famous musicians come. I remember NRBQ, those guys, but I think, well, Gene Pitney's there, but Duke Ellington's in there somewhere, but it was some big time musicians that went to these places. Yeah, I'm just not a music person, so they don't mean anything to me, but there was a lot. So you can see they had them at Rouse, they had it at Sandy Beach, and they had them at Crystal Lake Ballroom. So this is a map kind of showing you where everything was. So we have Sandy Beach Road, where there's Jimmy's, Crystal Lake School, the fire department, and the church. Then was Surdell's, Crystal Lake Ballroom. The Grove was part of Surdell's. It then it was sold to Pagani's, I believe in the late 60s or the 60s sometime. The Crystal Lake Hotel was kind of by the boat launch, the ice house. There was, and then Lasky's was really right on the lake, but the pictures couldn't reach. Jack's, Rouse, Jack's, way up. At one time, there was a mini golf up there. And then Wendell's Cottage, and see how Wendell's Road goes up. And the dam is at the top. And East Shore Road was not developed early on. So when it first was developed, I mean, there was no year-round living on Crystal Lake except for one house, one family that was year-round, and they lived kind of here, right in this area. So it was fun times. Here's some cool pictures. At the top, the pictures are from like 1916 to 1920. The bathing suits are great. Kitty beauty pageants, pie eating contests. Everything was just boom town and lovely. It also was very active during the winter. Ice harvesting was very important. Ice harvesting was mostly done by farmers who supplemented their income in the winter by harvesting ice. There was skating and sledding. There was, see the guy on the bottom, they made these sailing on ice things. And it's very, when you think of climate change now, the story goes, it's really specifically, but my father-in-law was born on December 19th. And he's no longer living, but he was the first cesarean section done at Rockville Hospital. And the story goes that the nurse had to ice skate across the SNF to get to the hospital. So think about this, December 19th. When have you seen ice on December 19th? When have you seen ice on February 19th? So, yeah. Climate change is real. No ice harvesting done. Ice fishing. The pictures are small, I apologize, but those are some big honking fish right there. So, 1957, the residents of the area said, come on, we need a school up here. And finally they got one. 1957, Crystal Lake School is completed. And this is a picture of the original, what it looked like originally. Other things happening on the lake. There was a very active ski club, and that was an amateur ski club, but they were award-winning. They competed, and the people in the ski club would be probably around in their 90s right now, low 90s. It was very active. They even had a jump that they go around and fly over the jump. Pretty cool. The other thing down at Crystal Lake was parasailing, because the Pioneer Parachute Company in Manchester bought the patent from the guy who invented the parasail. And so very early on, it was one of the very first places with parasailing. And I've never, this guy's when he's parasailing, he's gonna land with his water skis. So that's pretty cool. But I don't know if, I haven't seen maybe it's regulated, I don't see parasailing now. So then in 1971, the town buys Sandy Beach property from George, not sure if you would say Bocus or Bacchus. And the dance hall and roller skating rink had been silent and abandoned, and they were just removed. The beach was enlarged and fenced in, and they added a parking lot in 1971. Good move by the town. This is one of my most favorite stories about the lake. I just find it amazing. So remember, we at the very beginning in 1786, Ellington is incorporated. So in 1988, so we have these flow rights to the dam, okay? The last mill that owned those flow rights, I guess they sold them over the years, was Stafford Printing Company. They're in Stafford. So the purpose of the flow over the lake was it filled their mill ponds to power their mills. And back in the day, the stories from the women who did grow up on Crystal Lake year-round said the lever to control the dam was this very simple mechanical wheel, and they had the right to lower the lake 8 feet. They said they owned the top 8 feet of the water, and they would go in and lower that lake because they wanted the water, and it really was a problem. I mean, 8 feet is very low. You could actually walk all the way along the inside, but then people couldn't stand it that were on the lake and would sneak in at night and fill it back up. And it happened all the time. So Stafford Printing owns the flow of the water over the dam. They go bankrupt. And a lawyer in Stafford now owns these rights because they went bankrupt, and that's what he got. He talks this guy, Clement Royer, he sells him those rights for $70,000. Now this Royer gives everybody who has a place on the lake a letter, says, get your boats out, get your docks out. I own Crystal Lake. I'm going to make it into a reservoir. It's closed to boating, closed to swimming. I'm going to build a water bottle company, and luxury golf courses and condominiums. Everybody goes, ah, no, you can't do that. The town of Ellington, selectmen of the town also go, oh, no, you can't do that. Here, we approved $70,000, we'll buy them back. And the guy goes, that's $1.5 million now. Dorothy Cohen, our town historian, have you ever seen the Yellow Book? She writes a letter, we have the letter. She's kind of kind, but not really, but to the point. Are you kidding me, guys? Look at when Ellington was incorporated. It got incorporated in 86, and included all bodies of water, all land under the lakes. What does the guy own? Don't give this guy a dime. So Royer hires his own surveyor, his own people to investigate. He spends $200,000, and the people he hired come back and say, you don't own anything. Now he goes out of business because he made a dumb move. Now, to this day, his lawyers own those rights. Whatever it means, who knows. But it's just an interesting story. But that's what started the Crystal Lake Association, started because of that. They said, oh, we gotta, do something about letting people come in here and destroying the lake. But I just find that a very interesting story. So the Crystal Lake Association, they put a lot of work, volunteers, they got funding. I'm not sure if they might have got small grants, but they worked. And they improved that dam. And that was only completed to the state it is today in 2020. And the other thing, the Crystal Lake Association is very active in controlling the milfoil invasive weed in the lake. They monitor it, and they're very much involved in that.
Yes, yes.
Oops. Okay. So, 2024. Crystal Lake is considered one of the best lakes in eastern Connecticut, a trophy trout lake, a place with summer and winter recreation at Town Beach, a state boat launch, and approximately 2,500 residents. And I don't know how many of those are year-round. Crystal Lake is as popular and beautiful as it was when it was called Wawaquasit. And this picture is just 1 year old, and right about this time of year, it might have been maybe a month, maybe in March, but pretty much right around this time of year. You can see how beautiful the lake is. So a lot of these photos come from Lynn Cloderfay's book, Crystal Lake, that's available at the Historical Society. And our 2024 exhibit, that you have to come see, please, is going to be It Happened in Ellington, Believe It or Not. It will open on April 20th. It opens when Ellington has its Earth Day celebration. And there's some really, it's going to feature some pretty famous people that lived in Ellington once that you'd be surprised. And some very quirky stories that we have uncovered. And it's going to be very good. If you would like, the other things I have, pamphlets on the Ellington Historical Society up here that you can take. There's a clipboard. If you'd like to leave your email, we send out a newsletter quarterly and an email every once in a while, kind of random when we're going to have an event. So what we have changed is, instead of being open, Thursdays 1 to 3, we changed our model to have an event once a month. The reason for that is we need numbers walking through that museum. So even if, the reason for that is to get grants. We've gotten some great grants. That's how we got our pavilion. And our other big grant was an ARPA grant. ARPA was the recovery from COVID. And the grant is for our archives. We have been doing tremendous work on our archives. When I started in 2020, there was some archives organized, but a room with tables just full, just piled up with papers.
Okay, I'm gonna end it there.
Thursdays 1 to 3, we changed up.
And because she goes through a lot of other things on that, and I'm gonna provide the link to this video in my description, only because there's a little bit at the end. This is a 2-hour video, so I wanted to stop it at a certain point, but you get my drift. It's a really nice area with a lot of rich history, and honestly it's where I grew up, so it would be my history, I mean, and I love it. I did talk to my cousin who messaged me back about that little shack that I was telling you about that I forgot about, that had the rock there. I said, were you ever in there? It was just I guess a one-room thing with nothing in it except for a dead animal, he said last time he was in it. So, yeah, it was just a creepy little shack. I think I got everything. I did, when I was mentioning, the lake, and let me see if I can't get an image up here, another image, to show you at a source. Let's see, image. I'm gonna add a source here, and give you the image. Where is it? Browse. Bear with me. I'm browsing my images. Yeah. Documents. Who, where? Woohoo. Okay. Yeah. When open, and then do that. Actually do that and bring it big. Now, what I did was on the, if you're looking to at it on the left hand side, I had mentioned that that was owned by Yedzaniak, but it wasn't. It was owned all by Wendell. All right, and Wendell's own it to this day. I didn't mention in this video that with that being said, the reason why we don't want people going on this land is insurance purposes. If somebody gets hurt, they don't know who's going to sue them and who's not. First of all, I would never sue them, but it's because there's hunting. They do allow hunting on the land, and if they can at least know when you're going to go up there, all you have to do is ask them politely, message them, ask them, and they'll agree, and they'll go up there with you, and they'll explain things to you if you have any questions. So, but they just don't want anybody shot on their land, which I don't blame them. My first overall impression of Mrs. Wendell and Mr. Wendell they're very nice people. Very easy to talk to. I didn't expect to even get to look in that well. They let me look in it. I thought it was very nice. I don't know what I expected to see, but I didn't videotape any of it. And maybe next time I'll videotape and show you all where I went and what I meant, what I mean. But as of, it was more important to talk to them and to see what they had to say too. For me to make my opinions about certain things up. And I keep getting called back to the lake. I'm not sure why. But I do know this. I still have a family member up there, and I love very much. And I want that family member to know that they're never alone. If they need me, just call me. So, I mean, I love that land. It's a beautiful piece of land. And I don't like it having a negative history, but some of it is. I'm sure there's a lot of fun stories that people could tell. I'm sure a lot of people had fun at Crystal Lake or have fun at Crystal Lake. Mrs. Wendell loves the area. It's beautiful, and it's gorgeous land. And honestly, I don't feel the negativity on that land that I used to feel growing up. So I think if it's there, it's dormant. So for what it's worth, I do have family up there. I still will be going up there because I love him. I really enjoyed spending time with Mrs. Wendell. She had invited me for tea, but I decided I needed to get back to my cousin. So maybe one day I'll have a coffee or tea with her somewhere. But yeah, it was a very pleasant meeting. And just revisiting places and walking down the street that I used to walk on and stuff. It was really nice. So that's where I am with that, and that's where I am with the history and trying to show my cousin what I dug up. But I mean, what I'll probably do is, for a hobby type thing, is actually take and put overlap the history of where everybody was when they first settled there, and show you the clippings and the stuff where I got with the history of the different murders and stuff. I mean, it's, trudging that stuff up is just for history purposes at this point. You all have a nice day, and thank you. Bye. I'm not good at keeping long stories short. Stop streaming. Start spreading the news.